Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Ridiculously Lame Wrestling Show. My name is Tony Squares. As always, I'm joined by a man that is covering the world of wrestling, has been doing so for the past decade, and is now a writer for Sportskeeda, Mr. Robert Lentini, a lifelong frenemy of mine. And each week we talk about both the WWE and AEW and all things wrestling in particular. We break down the most important moments and move forward on what we expect to happen. It is time for the show. We have a whole match card to go through, a bunch of topics. We have a little bit of a Backlash review where we're telling you whether we like the matches or not. And then at the end, it's our favorite, the gimmicks of the week. And we have a couple of new gimmicks in there for you. But Mr. Robert Lentini, before we get to that Backlash preview, I know it's coming a little bit later, but just off the top, can we get a round of applause for the state of France?
Yes, absolutely. The crowd in France stole the show. Before we even get to the Backlash review, the crowd in France was the star of that show. They made that show way better than it deserved to be. So much better than it deserved to be. Hats off to France. WWE should just have every premium live event there moving forward, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. It was that sometimes wrestling fans can take over a show and it's a bad thing. In this case, absolutely. It promoted the show to such a high level. It made it important television. All those clips that you see online make them fun to watch. That was the beauty of wrestling. So hats off to France. I don't know if that's a good thing to do in France. Sometimes hats off is a bad thing, depending on where you are. But good thing for France. Please, WWE, go back there. AEW, don't be afraid to try it as well. Maybe you'll get a full house. But let's move on to the curtain jerker. It's time to open up the show. It's time to talk about the 5 biggest topics in wrestling, and we're opening up the curtain with another hat tip to the production crew of WWE, and this is centering around the story between the Judgment Day, Dominik Mysterio, and Liv Morgan. My friend Robert, we've been talking about this for a while, how the production crew is just up to everything they're doing, how every little thing they show you matters. Weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, we saw in the background during a backstage segment, Liv Morgan walk out of a room, then a few seconds later, Dom Mysterio walk out of that same room. Liv Morgan was the one that injured Rhea Ripley in storyline. Rhea Ripley and Dom have been together for a while, and now we see Dominik during one backstage segment with the Judgment Day. He has his stupid little purple bandana around his neck. During the next segment, he doesn't have the bandana. Where did the bandana go? And then you see Liv Morgan with the bandana in her pocket, just poking out just a little bit for us fans to see it. Rob, this is still real to you, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I love this is my favorite storyline in wrestling right now, and I think it might be the only one. I am fully invested in this. I love everything about it. I love the little detail that's going on with the Judgment Day. Dominik Mysterio he's just constantly trying to bring new members into the Judgment Day, and Damian Priest looks like he's going to murder him. He tried to get Carlito into the Judgment Day this past Monday, and Damian Priest was like, no, the hell out of here. So Dominik Mysterio is, I think, looking for a way to get out of that group, or they're trying to figure out a way to break him out. And I think the perfect thing to do would be have him break up with Rhea Ripley for Liv Morgan. And I just think the way that they're doing the storyline, they didn't even show that bandana. You wouldn't even have caught that on TV. That was from her images on Instagram and social media that she uploaded, that you saw that little pocket and people flipping out and zooming in. They're just on their game with everything now. Everything that they show you matters. Sure, some of it still sucks, but everything that they show you matters. And just this storyline itself, I think it's excellent. And I've been complaining about what they've been doing with Liv Morgan since she returned.
Right.
Again, I'll give a brief rundown one more time. Returned number 30 at the Women's Royal Rumble. Came in second at the Women's Elimination Chamber match. Second in the Battle Royal. She came in second in something else too. Oh, in the Women's Royal Rumble. She was the last woman eliminated. So she never has gotten a title shot. We learn on Raw that she will be facing Becky Lynch at King and Queen of the Ring. And my question to you, would you have Dominik Mysterio get involved in this match at King and Queen of the Ring and have Liv Morgan be the champion when Rhea Ripley returns? Because to me, we've already seen the Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch storyline. I want to see Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan with Dominik in Liv Morgan's corner. Would you agree with me on that?
Listen, we were a little disappointed when Becky won that belt, not because it's Becky, nothing to do with Becky, just because it felt like a retread. It felt like we got the injury and we just sort of reverted back to where we were. If this was all a build to slowly show us the Liv Morgan climb to the top via Dom, then it's worth it. Liv Morgan has to win at King Queen of the Ring. Liv Morgan has to win this belt, and it has to be due to Dom, because if Rhea Ripley's back, it's not a forever injury like a Kenny Omega and AEW here. Rhea Ripley should be back relatively soon, and so you have Dominik Mysterio go to the side of Liv and build that up for a few weeks with Liv as champion, and Rhea comes back with an actual dog to fight against. And as for the Judgment Day aspect of this, I don't think this would be the tipping point that breaks up Judgment Day. I think that's going to do with Damian Priest and then Finn Balor on the other side. But it absolutely is another catalyst into the breakup of that group. And I love how Dom's trying to bring in new people. I love how Dom's going to be eventually including Liv Morgan in those Judgment Day talks. And Damian Priest will eventually break off from that group, or they will attack him in some way. Maybe Dom Mysterio is the new leader of the Judgment Day there, and gives Rhea Ripley even more to attack. I'm all for this. And as you said, not everything needs to be good on wrestling television, because it's impossible to put on 3 hours, 2 hours, a pay-per-view and this and have it all be good television. But the fact that they are trying with these little Easter eggs, the fact that they are throwing dollops out there for people to catch on to, latch on to, and explore, it's fantastic. And it makes you care about this even more. It has idiots like us talking about it on a random Thursday because we're still thinking about it. Everything about this has been great, and I'm happy it's our curtain jerker. Anything else you want to say about the Judgment Day side of things before we move on to the mid-card?
No, we'll talk a little bit more about the Judgment Day when we get to the Backlash review. We'll talk, because they teased that they're breaking up in that match too. So we'll get to a little bit more of the Judgment Day later on in the show. But let's get to the mid-card.
Let's go to the mid-card, baby. All right, I want to talk about my favorite thing going on in wrestling television right now, because, again, I am the AEW fan, and I was surprised that this has captured me as much as it had, but I talked about it a little bit last week. It was part of the headline that I gave, and I was kind of correct in predicting what the future would hold for AEW, and I'm very happy about it. The match between Adam Copeland and Brody King to end AEW Dynamite was fantastic. Brody King bled like a stuck pig during that match, and really was a titanic figure that Adam Copeland had to overcome. But the little dollops of this eventual turn that we're going to get out of Adam Copeland, Kyle O'Reilly coming in for the save and helping him out after. I'll talk about the match beatdowns afterwards. I got something, a con to say about that, but we're saving my anger for later. This is good. Adam Copeland slowly breaking bad is very, very good. This is the best House of Black have looked since they arrived, and they're eventually leaving, some of them. But since they arrived, this is the most sinister. This is the most together. This is the most powerful they have looked in losses in both of those matches. Adam Copeland slowly climbing up the ranks to get to the man at the top, but as he's going up there, he's slowly devolving into madness, and we know that evil Adam Copeland is coming. I have not been a huge fan of the Adam Copeland AEW experience so far. Again, that's mostly booking, nothing to do with the wrestler or the performer, but this right here, this is gold, and I am looking forward for the first time in a long time to the match at Collision between Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Copeland for that belt, because we might see a sinister move out of Adam Copeland here, because Kyle O'Reilly is clearly going to be the babyface in that match, and I cannot wait to see the future of this. Does this storyline grab you at all, my friend?
It's starting to. I really enjoyed that main event last night with Brody King. I think he's one of the most underutilized people in that company. I hope if House of Black leaves, I hope he's the one who just happens to stay for some reason. They give him a singles run, because that dude's a monster, and he can go. He can just fly around the ring. He's a rare talent that I think has been wildly underutilized, but I'm glad he got the main event last night. And I really liked that meeting with Kyle O'Reilly after the match. It was awkward as hell. Like, O'Reilly is just is such a weird character to me right now. I don't know what he is, but he helped Edge to get that TNT title shot, and Edge kind of begrudgingly gave it to him during that backstage segment. And I am looking forward to that match. But yeah, I am interested in this storyline, and this is the most. Well, I kind of for a while liked Copeland versus Christian, and then it just kept going on and on and on.
Yeah.
So this. I would say when Copeland's first initially started feuding with Christian, it was my favorite version of him in AEW, but this is much better than what he's been doing in the past few weeks. You know, the AEW pep talk promo and all that crap. Just have him be. He's not the pep talk guy. He's an evil guy He's a heel at heart. We all know it. So let's get there. Let's slowly get there. And I'm willing to take the journey now. I'm enjoying this storyline, and Kyle O'Reilly's obviously not winning the TNT title. on Collision, but it should be a great match.
No, he's not. And he was dressed like a young dad going camping for the first
That's
time
what
on
that's what I'm
AEW
talking
Dynamite. He's
That's
the
what I'm talking
shortest,
about.
the shortest forest green shirts you've ever seen. Ankle, calf high socks, but just scrunched down to his ankles and little loafers. It just didn't make any sense what he was wearing. But hey, Kyle O'Reilly's going to Kyle O'Reilly, and he's a great wrestler in the ring. So I'm excited to see that match. Excited to see the future. Do you think, now that you've seen another week of this, do you agree with my prediction that with the eventual Malachi Black and likely Buddy Murphy leaving, AEW House of Black will be gone? Brody King is probably staying. Do you think anywhere closer to Adam Copeland being the man to take over that evil, sinister group? And maybe it's not House of Black, but something different under Adam Copeland.
I think we're like months away still. It feels like, right? I don't feel like, but I think eventually we're gonna get there. But and we're gonna have Copeland be like he was the leader of the Judgment Day before they kicked him out. Just a leader of an evil faction, and the Judgment Day improved drastically without Copeland, and that wasn't his fault. But like they just got so much better without him. But I think that if he finds like younger guys, like the same idea, just in AEW and not the Judgment Day, obviously, but just younger talent that he can mold, because he is like the elder statesman now in AEW. He is the legend that everybody's looking up to. So give him some young guys to work with and help, create the future for your company here.
Speaking of elder statesmen, another mid-card match we need to talk about is our boy Ric Flair. Still out there wild in the world, still wearing suit jacket wherever he goes, and still getting absolutely plastered at a random bar and yelling at workers. Again, I don't know if you've seen this video. I don't know if we're allowed to play this video to the side of us, or maybe we'll link to it in the bio. But basically, Ric Flair was in a long tiff with some bartenders and some restaurant managers, and he came out on Twitter. I think that's how I heard about this, is that Ric Flair came out on Twitter and accosted this restaurant saying, "Don't go there. I was made fun of. I was kicked out, blah, blah, blah." And then the restaurant clapped back and said, "Actually, sir, this is what really happened." And we saw the footage, and Ric Flair, he said he wasn't inebriated, but my man, if that's not inebriated, we got to check you into a hospital somewhere, because there's a lot of slurring, a lot of just floating ideas going on. There's a lot going on. And my man, the fall of Ric Flair has not been pretty over the past few years. And this is another chapter. And here's the thing. I think this is Ric Flair. Like, I think if you see Ric Flair on a Tuesday, this is the Ric Flair you're going to get. And that's the sad part,
Yeah, it's just I'm not. I was gonna play clips from this. I don't think I will, because I think it is more sad, to be honest. Like when you step back. But my favorite part of the video, before, like, just the Nicholas dickhead is just such a ridiculous line. What's your name, Nicholas dickhead? That's what that's such a. You telling me that guy's not hammered? Oh, please. And also, and it's just. I don't think we're ever going to see him on AEW television again. That would be my guess. I would never put him on AEW television again. My guess is like the 2 hours a week he's not hammered is when he's at Dynamite. So I would just let's give him a break.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe he's getting warmed up in backstage in his locker room. But seriously, just, dude, I mean, he is who he is. He's never going to change. He was on He was on his deathbed because of alcohol. And he's just... and he quit for a bit, and that's just an addiction that he can't get rid of, obviously. And it's sad to me, but I think we all it's like, unless something changes, I feel like we all know how this story ends, which is why is really sad to me. So I'm not going to play the video and just overdo it, but it is worth a watch. If you haven't seen it, just check it out, just to see the state of Ric Flair, to see this guy needs help. I think that's what I would say about it. Because he's at a pizza shop. This is not like an Uno's. This is not like a Chili's. This is like ridiculous. Like, it's not at like a bar.
It's also light out. Like, it's not dark. Yeah. It's not midnight. It's like 4 p.m. But here's the thing, that the part of the sadness of this is there's so many great wrestlers from the past. Some of them leave us too early, and we remember them with such grace and dignity. And guys like Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair have done some things now in their later years that show a different side of them, that sort of takes that respect away from them. And again, deserve it. I'm not saying, we should play a small violin for Ric Flair. No, he deserve it, of all the hate that he has gotten over the past few years, whether they're allegations or not. But when Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan and the rest of them finally, call it a career on this wonderful life that we are leading. Hopefully painless and old age and, lived a full life. I'm not saying anything bad should happen to them, but when that day gets here, how will we remember them? How will we celebrate them? How will we go forward, in that gracious run? How will we give them their flowers? Because the more that they do stuff like this, the more tarnished that image gets. And that's the sad part for me. You know what I mean? Like that. And I might be a selfish take on this whole thing, but that's the sad part for me.
No, I agree. It's like whenever the Orson Welles hammered doing a commercial in later stages of his career, it's like, you don't need to see that. Like that guy is a great director. We don't need to see that. Ric Flair is an all-time great wrestler, a legend of the business. I don't want to see him flipping out at a pizza shop at 2 p.m. hammered. Like that's sad. And it's more sad when you thought he was already through it. Like he said, I'm never going to do this again. I'm giving up the drinking, and then we're right back here. It's just, that's why I'm more sad about it. I feel like it is what it is. You can't change it now. It's way too late. He's in late 70s. It's not changing now. So
yeah. I just remember when he was going through that scary health situation, and he was really on the edge for a couple of days there. I just remember the bulk of the internet literally praying for him to kick out at 2. Like that was that was trending, like kick out at 2. Like they wanted Ric Flair to come back. And that wonderful feeling about Ric Flair when he was on the other side of things, like I don't know that that's there anymore, and that's deflating. But let's move on.
Just case in point, when AEW signed Ric Flair, everybody was like, why? That's where he is now. You know what I mean? Everybody was like, why would you sign this man? And it wasn't worth it already. It hasn't been worth it.
Woo energy, baby. That's why they signed him. Let's move on to the final mid-card match, and it has to do with another elder statesman that is aging past his prime. It's CM Punk. Bob, what do you got to say about what CM Punk did this week, my man?
Well, the Drew McIntyre and CM Punk feud continues to be excellent. He was on. Drew McIntyre was ruled out of the King of the Ring tournament, and unfortunately, he has a hyperextended elbow. So Adam Pearce ruled him out this past Monday, replaced him with Jey Uso, who beat Finn Balor, and Drew McIntyre was pissed about that. He leaves. Excuse me, as I lose my voice. He leaves in his car, and CM Punk shows up right after, and then he goes to the ring, cuts a promo, calls McIntyre a coward. All this, but the line that I took from this, that CM Punk looked into the camera and said he's going to hide in a freaking bowl of haggis at Clash at the Castle and pop out and cave McIntyre's face. And McIntyre responded that he's going to cave his entire head in at Clash at the Castle. And that, that premium live event is in Scotland. So CM Punk is going to be the heel in that match. There's no way he's getting a babyface pop there. So my question coming out as I clumsily wrap this up here to ask you a question. Would the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre rivalry has been so entertaining to me, and they haven't even had a match. Punk's just been on the shelf since January, and they've just pulled it off. It's really impressive. Does this feud need a title? Does Drew McIntyre need to win the World Heavyweight Championship from Damian Priest before Clash at the Castle, or could they just have this as a singles match in the main event of that show? Because I think they could do that. I think they can keep the title on Priest for a while longer and just have this be a singles match. What do you think to that? Would you put the title on Priest before Clash at the Castle?
I think the plan, putting Drew McIntyre in King of the Ring, was interesting to me, even when he was turned out to be not healthy. But putting him on that placard was interesting to me because I did not think he was going to win that match, and I did not think Drew McIntyre was going to suffer a loss to anybody for a while. And so I immediately thought, well, Drew McIntyre can't win a match. CM Punk's going to cost him again. Like they're going to keep drawing out that feud until CM Punk comes back. And so I cannot see Drew McIntyre winning a title over anybody as long as CM Punk is in the building, whether it be any of the people that have a title right now, even the secondary titles. I think CM Punk is going to cost this man over and over again until they actually face off. So I don't believe it's logical for Drew McIntyre to have a title in this match. And do you need a title to be the main event of that match? Because again, if we're in Scotland for that pay-per-view, that Drew McIntyre is in the main event. I don't care what the other storylines are. I don't care if Roman Reigns comes back to fight Cody Rhodes. It's the main event. Last match on the card needs to be Drew McIntyre, just like it was Rhea Ripley when they were in Australia. That's what I was going to bring up. So I don't think you need a title attached to that. And if they shoehorn a title to that match, it becomes secondary. Like we don't, whoever wins that and wins the title, we're not caring about the title. at that point. So I don't think it needs it. I hope it doesn't get it. I will say the I think you missed the most memorable line of the promo. And I know the bowl of haggis and all that stuff. And again,
I know,
very reminiscent of CM Punk coming out and talking about Hangman Page when Hangman Page definitely wasn't in the arena and couldn't come out and defend himself. Drew McIntyre left, and I know it's storyline, and CM Punk comes out and says, "Drew, come on back. I'm waiting for you," looking at the clock. Made Drew McIntyre look like a pussy, and I don't know if that was planned or not, but CM Punk continues to go down that line. But the most memorable...
He had everybody tweet at him. It was a joke. It wasn't. He had all the fans tweet at him. It was funny.
Sure, and then he doesn't
lighten up, Brent.
And then he doesn't show up and looks like lesser of because he doesn't show up to the call. But the most memorable part of that line is CM Punk saying, Drew McIntyre is a choke artist, or maybe I'm a choke artist. No, I'm a guillotine choke. I'm a different kind of choke artist. And then Pat McAfee on commentary says the guillotine choke. Listen, if you're going to make fun of AEW constantly referring to the CM Punk bullshit, you got to do the same about CM Punk referring to it when, again, there's no end game to that. That's just him trying to put himself over.
Yeah, and also I will say about that, I thought it was a funny line. But I will say about that, the crowd didn't react because AEW, they're not into it as the WWE. It's not as big of a crossover as AEW would hope. Like, we're learning from these lines that a lot of people just don't give a shit. Like the WWE fans, WWE universe, if you will, just don't care about AEW, like the drama. They're just happy CM Punk is back there. And so I wish everybody, Punk, Tony Khan, Young Bucks, everyone, move on. You fired him. It was a stupid decision. It had to be done, I guess. You couldn't work it out. You couldn't give that once-in-a-lifetime storyline that I'm still pissed about. But instead, we'll talk about it in the main event with who they're replacing CM Punk with in that storyline. We'll talk about that in the main event next. But yeah, it's just frustrating. And I agree with you. The line, like, that is just Punk putting himself over the guillotine. Like, that's just, whatever. But yeah, I'm just, I will say that I just hope everybody moves on. I hope that was the last shot by both, but I don't think it will be.
And let us move on to the last thing we're going to talk about on our match card today. It's time for the main event. And it does have to do with the man that CM Punk left behind, because we got the reveal of what's going to happen to this evil, sinister, the Elite group. They're running the show backstage. They're making all these decisions, firing guys, taking Tony Khan's parking spot. How could they? And who's going to step up to them? FTR came out and defended people against the Elite last week and got beaten up for it for trying to fight Kenny Omega. So Kenny Omega comes out in a hospital bed a la Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And he says, we are going to have at Double or Nothing an Anarchy in the Arena match, and it's going to be the Elite, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, Okada, and the scapegoat Jack Perry verse FTR and two members of their choosing. And then at the end of the show, a little bit of overrun, which isn't really an overrun when you constantly do an overrun every week. Your show is just now 2 hours, 10 minutes long. But it loses its luster after about 17 in a row. But anyway, FTR comes out and they've chosen their combatants in this Anarchy in the Arena match. And the first song we hear, to a very large pop, is my man Eddie Kingston, who looks like a rabid dog when he's out there ready to absolutely tear someone apart. And he has storylines with all these guys. So I'm very excited to see that. Okada was the one that took the belt off of Eddie Kingston. And then the last music that you hear is Bob's favorite man. Bob, talk about the feeling you had when this man came out.
I like, everybody was popping. Everybody was excited. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This guy got injured in this match last year. Bryan Danielson, he's just never healthy. Why are we putting him in these matches? Like, he's just had the greatest singles match of all time, pretty much, with Will Ospreay. Let's put him in this gimmick match where I bet my left leg he's getting hurt. Like, Jesus. But yeah, like that, like, I just know he is. We already know that story is after the Bryan Danielson suffers concussion. It just is what it is. Like, but I mean, it's going to be a fun match, but why Bryan Danielson in this match? It's so frustrating to me. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. This guy's always injured here. Like, let's stop putting him in these like Hell in a Cell type match, like stadium stampedes. Let's give it a rest. He's a technical wrestler. But yeah, do you agree with me on that? Like, why is he in this match?
I put it this way. I don't think there's other than Ospreay, I don't think there's a bigger name in that company to be like, who's our last guy? Like, that's the perfect last guy. I will say the Anarchy in the Arena match was made excellent the past 2 years in a row. Why? Not because of the combatants or because of the match itself. They were great, but it felt different because both times we kept playing Dean Ambrose's John Moxley's theme music. That was the best. They just kept replaying it as these guys were beating the crap out of each other. It was complete chaos, and that added to it. And the fact that we won't have that this year, it makes me a little sad. I don't think you can keep replaying the Daniel Bryan music. It doesn't have the same effect. So I do believe John Moxley, if he's I don't know if he's not healthy or because he hasn't been on TV for a minute. If John Moxley comes out to that in that Debray spot, I think it's the same amount of pop. And then you have that music back. And also they're part of the Blackpool Combat Club, which is good, which is bad. We don't know. Anyway, that's my only call on this. That's the only thing I'm missing. What do you have to say?
I would have had John Moxley in this match instead of Bryan Danielson. He just faced Powerhouse Hobbs for the IWGP title or whatever a couple weeks ago. Now Hobbs was the one who got injured in that match, of course.
Gotcha.
And Moxley's fine. Hobbs is out now. But
poor AEW. All these guys getting injured, man, in both promotions. Anyway, I'm very excited to see this. I'm very excited to see this build. This is exactly what I wanted out of this Evil Elite faction, and a very fun foursome to attack them in an Anarchy in the Arena match. And this is going to be a blast. Like with these matches, that when AEW puts these types of matches on, they always deliver. Sometimes they're a little bit gimmicky if they have a Chris Jericho type person in it, but I do believe this one. And you're right about being scared about what Bryan Danielson will be coming out of this match, because these 8 men in particular, there's going to be some dangerous moments in this match, and bloodshed will be had. I mean, coming into it off the jump, who do you think is going over in a way too early prediction here?
I'd go with the Elite. I think you have to keep building them up as monster heels. And Kenny Omega's not in this match, and he's being billed as like the guy, the sane one of that group, the guy that the AEW fans should get behind in this rivalry. He's not in that match, so I think they're going to give Team AEW whatever that's going to be the big AEW victory over the Elite whenever Omega's involved, I think. But just going back to Bryan Danielson, just protect Bryan Danielson from himself, Tony, please. That's just don't put him in the match. But overall, I just like I said in the statement there, like this would have been. Like, if you had CM Punk in that hospital bed, this rivalry would have been the greatest of all time. But it's Kenny Omega.
Right, so enough. I will say the other, again, I'm not trying to poo-poo this at all, because I really enjoy what I'm about to watch as a wrestling fan here. I am a touch disappointed that the first time we see Bryan Danielson and Okada in an AEW ring together is, I mean, I guess you know what I'm saying. Like,
it's a
one-on-one match between them. You know, maybe they keep them separate. You know what I mean? But anyway, that's the last poo-poo that I'm going to give you. But that's it for the match card of the show. Let's move on to the Backlash preview. Again, Backlash was in France. We had 5 matches to go through here, and we're going to be very quick going through this review. Yeah, not preview. We're going to be very quick going through this review. We wanted to join the idiots online that give out star ratings. We believe, between our two minds and between our past as wrestling historians, all the matches that we've watched, all the dirt sheets that we've read, all the inside information that we have traded, we believe we are together expert enough to give out match ratings. So instead of giving star ratings, that's overdone. We are going to give out 1 through 5 Meltzers for these matches. Let's start off. We had the Bloodline versus Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. What's your Meltzer rating for this one?
I'm going to give this a big 4 Meltzers out of 5. I thought this match was a great way to kick off the show. It was my second favorite match of the night. We got whatever the hell the guy's name is, Tongaloa. I'll get it eventually. He debuted. You sent me that video of the looked good on TV, but for the fan cam, the referee had to pull himself out of the ring. But overall, it's still, with all those flaws, 4 out of 5 Meltzers for me for the opening match for Backlash. How about you?
Robert, you've already messed this whole thing up, not because of your rating, but because you're doing now what Meltzer himself has fallen trap into. You're going too high, man. You're going too high too early. Listen, 5-star match for me is going to be an almost inconceivable achievement. And when I finally give out a 5 Meltzer, you're going to know it's a Bryan Danielson, Will Ospreay type match. So I really enjoyed myself during this Bloodline and Kevin Owens RKO feud, even with the Tongaloa botch of the referee pulling himself out. Excellent job by that referee, by the way.
Yeah.
This is 3 Meltzers for me. Let's move on to the women's tag team match. We have the Kabuki Warriors going down. Asuka, legit injured, fighting through all that pain over and over again, doing house show matches, not telling anyone she was in pain, losing to the new tag team champions, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. How many Meltzers, Bob?
2.5 Meltzers for me. This match was my least favorite of the night. I wasn't as excited about it going into it at all because I knew Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair were going to win. Just made too much sense to give them the titles. I like this finishing sequence when Jade Cargill hit the Jaded on Kairi Sane and Belair followed it up with the KOD on Asuka on top of Sane. That was cool, but it was a bit like clunky getting there, and overall just kind of a forgettable match. But congrats to the new champions.
0.75 Meltzers. Not even when you put the Meltzers on the screen, don't even put a full Meltzer face. Cut it off about 0.75. This match stunk and the ending was a lot of fun. Let's move on to the triple threat. Bayley, Stratton, Naomi. What do you got, Bob?
3.5 Meltzers for me. Really enjoyed this match. Again, I thought Tiffany Stratton had a great showing. I love the finish as well. Stratton went for the prettiest moonsault ever. They both get out of the way. Hit a 3D. They team up to take out Stratton. Stratton really didn't take the pin. Stratton didn't take the cover. Came out of this match unscathed. Then Bayley just rolled up Naomi after that to win. But overall, good match. Not too much to complain about here for me.
Yeah, I got 2.5 Meltzers on it. I really enjoyed it. Again, going to be a tough critic here. Not a lot of 5s or 4s or high 4s given out. Not as good as the Bloodline match, but definitely something I enjoyed. 2.5. And then we go. Damian Priest versus, frankly, Jey Uso's entrance was the best part of this match. But again, Bob, what's your Meltzer rating?
This one I got to go. I think I will go 3. I'll go 3 Meltzers out of 5.
Again, you're a very easy critic.
Oh, well, we were going to talk about this. The crowd made this every match feel like it was like the best main event of WrestleMania. It was unbelievable. Correct. If this was in Boston at the TD Garden, this would be a 1.5 star match. But because of France, as Dave Meltzer
just burying the hometown, Bob. Jesus Christ. You couldn't have picked Tallahassee? You had to go with Boston? All right. You're giving it 1.5. You're giving it 3. Yeah, go.
No, and I just wanted to say I like the end as well. The Judgment Day kept getting involved. Damian Priest was not happy with that. He wanted to win it on his own. He wants to be a champion like as his own and defend it as himself as a man. And I feel like this is going to end to the beginning at the end of the Judgment Day. We saw it here because they're not listening to him. They're not leaving him. Let him defend the title on his own.
Yeah, no, I did not enjoy this match. The crowd definitely made it something special. And again, the best part of this match was what happened after the bell. 1.5 Meltzers. Finally, the main event. We talked about last week. We did not like the build to Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles. We weren't technically too excited for this match because it was a foregone conclusion who was going to win, and we were very disappointed with the build of the whole thing. And yet, what did we give a Meltzer rating for? AJ Styles versus the champion Cody Rhodes.
I enjoy this one. This is my favorite match tonight. I'll give it the same rating. I leave 4 out of 5 Meltzers. And again, the crowd for this one with the phenomenal chant for AJ Styles singing it. And just Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles have unbelievable chemistry in the ring. I don't know how many times they wrestled. I don't think it's too many. That was perfect. And again, if this was everybody knew Cody Rhodes was going to win, but just because of that crowd, the energy, I just think it worked. So I'll give it 4 out of 5 Meltzers.
I agree with you. This is the best match on the card. I thought these two guys were excellent in the ring. And yes, the crowd helped, but the match, if this was in Tallahassee, would have gotten 4 Meltzers as well. I thought it was really, pardon the pun, phenomenal. And I thought these two guys were great. And long live AJ Styles, man. That guy's awesome. But overall, for Backlash, as a pay-per-view, as a premium live event, how many Meltzers you giving it?
Overall, it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. Again, I actually enjoy the 5-match card. I didn't think I would, but I think every match got some time and it flowed. And I didn't feel the need for them to add in. I like how they're doing because now the IC title match is happening at King of the Ring. I was going to ask that.
I'm going to give it 2 Meltzers. Again, mostly disappointed by the match. There were 2 matches that stood out to me, but I did want to ask that because I thought about this. Do you think this is officially the Triple H effect? Because we know some of the best pay-per-views that have happened over the past 10 years on WWE were NXT takeovers. And why was that? Because we built to these storylines that mattered so much. We built them and built them and built them for weeks. And then when we got to the pay-per-view, every time it was a 5-match card. Rarely did you have more. Yeah, you had some stuff on the NXT TakeOver pre-show, but every single time there were 5 matches on the bill, 5, 5, 5, 5, and each of them were given lots of time in the ring to tell their story, to finish their story, to put a period on it and move on to the next one. And what we're seeing right now, you're not going to do that on a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania or stuff like that, but on these really secondary and tertiary premium live events, stuff that happens in Saudi Arabia, no offense to them, like they don't matter in the long run. We don't need to have 72 matches on the Backlash card. And this was a 5-match card that, yes, didn't deliver for all of us, but really told the story of the pay-per-view in just 5 matches. Do you think that's what we're going to see moving forward? And would you call this the Triple H effect?
Yeah, that's a great point. Is this the NXT takeovers back in the day used to be something special? That was like before AEW even launched. Like that was my favorite. NXT was my favorite WWE brand for a while. So yeah, I think that is the Triple H effect. Shorter shows on these, and also going to international shows, they're forgiving of a match that they know the result of. Everybody knew Cody Rhodes was going to win.
Yeah,
but France was so excited to be there to see these guys in like. That they just accepted it and they fully bought it and they were flipping out for every false finish. So yeah, but I think 5 matches or less matches per show, and on the secondary premium live events, they go international because the crowd's just excited that they're there. And then less cynical than the United States is this again. If this event happened, exactly. If this event happened, if that's what would have happened, if that event happened in the United States, it would be what chance during the matches. So yeah, I agree with your point there.
All right, and that is it for the Backlash preview. Again, definitely things that we liked, some stuff to improve upon, but overall, France was the real winner of that whole entire pay-per-view, that whole premium live event. Let's move on. Let's finish the show with the gimmicks of the week. This is when we talk about the stuff that didn't deserve a full 5-minute segment of discussion here, just little blips on the radar, but they mattered enough to give them their own gimmick. And we're starting off with the social superstar of the week. This is a title that has been won by Drew McIntyre over and over and over again, but yet this week it's our man Sheamus. Bob, what does Sheamus do?
Well, Sheamus battled Gunther on Raw. And so he went on Twitter and before the match, just promoting the match, decided to compare the ring general to Hitler. Of all people, he said, an Austrian guy with a funny haircut has a thing for military-style coats, proclaims superiority over others, hangs out with Germans, and betrays his Italian ally. Jesus. The backlash to that tweet when it was like instant, and he deleted it. I found it funny. I thought it was a funny joke, but I understand why people are offended. Hitler's a weird thing to bring up. And Gunther responded, "What the fuck?" before the tweet was deleted as well.
I didn't see the response. Hey, Sheamus, you tried, man. Like, there's no shame in trying. And surprisingly, it wasn't the biggest, the most dominant, most watched Hitler reference of the week. That goes to Tom Segura and Burt Kreischer during the Tom Brady roast when they compared Tom Brady to Hitler. Let's stop. Let's just leave Hitler out of it. Let's just not bring him up or reference him. He's the worst human being to ever live. No one should be comparing him. Although Sheamus, I get it. It made sense. The Italian ally line did make me pop. Let's just leave it on the back burner next time. Not all thoughts need to be said. Exactly. A new gimmick. The Maharaja moment of the week. Thank you, Jinder Mahal, for all you did to WWE. He's actually a great follow on TikTok. If you want to watch some inspirational, like workout dieting stuff, he's doing great on TikTok. I want to throw that out there. But this gimmick is for this is the stuff that most wrestling fans are not a fan of, yet maybe I or Bob secretly, ashamedly, are a fan of this, and I'm actually rooting for this. And this is my gimmick this week. The Maharaja moment of the week. It's the learning tree in Chris Jericho. And I cannot believe I'm saying this. But Jericho came out. We'll talk about his opponents in a second. But Jericho came out, and the promo he gave afterwards, thanking Calgary. Oh, no, sorry, Edmonton. Very funny pop. He comes out and saying, I should be on all 2 hours of Dynamite, and gives a point and smile to the camera like he's Buddy Jesus, just like he's playing into the shtick that no one in the world wants to see him on their television screen. And I am eating it up. I am actually enjoying it. I am a fan of the learning tree, Bob. Someone save me. Someone save me.
I'll give him credit. That his promo last night was good. The trunks, him wrestling in trunks at this age. It's just that, I mean, he's doing it on purpose, right? Like, that's why it's funny. Like, because he looks he looks just obnoxious when you turn that channel on and see Jericho in trunks, and they don't fit him
like
right.
A gold Band-Aid on his ribs.
He looks like he's 90 in the trunks. He looks so much older in the trunks. Like, but yeah, I will agree. Like, I hated it at first, but now at least he's self-aware. At least he that about him. I'll give him that he knows that he's made himself look like a moron for a while.
Let's stick with the learning tree for a second, because the jobbers of the week, Bob, do you remember their names?
Yeah, I just pulled it up while you were talking because I knew you were going to say it's Mo Jabari and Harlan Abbott. They're making
those were the opponents of Jericho and Big Bill.
They did not even look like professional wrestlers. They look ridiculous. I will say that if you like shtick and comedy and you can just have fun with wrestling, you can enjoy the learning tree for what it is. And I agree. Yeah. It is funny. It is funny.
Bob, I think that should be our goal as a show, not to get listeners or subscribers. I think we should get big enough that someday when they're back at the TD Bank North Garden, you and me are the jobbers of the week, and we're facing the new AEW and WWE tag team, and one of us just gets demolished like Steve-O did back in the day when Jackass was in the ring. That's our goal. I start thinking of our tag team name. Let's move on now to the big show turn of the week that is also from AEW. It is Serena Deeb, who came out, debuted as a heel against Toni Storm, the champion, and we thought it was going to be Toni Storm, the good guy, versus Serena Deeb, the returning veteran wrestler, the heel of the group, and then came out and delivered a promo this week where she said immediately, "Hey, Canada, happy to be here." That's not a heel move. And then she said, "I love Toni Storm. I love everything about her." That's not a heel move. Didn't have a turn at the end of that sentence. And then started talking about a very real medical scare that she had in her past and how much she has fought back to climb to the top here. And then Toni Storm came out and tried to attack Serena Deeb, and Serena Deeb defended herself. Serena Deeb is now the good guy in this fight. Yeah. Toni Storm is now the bad guy in this fight. And I got to say, nothing against Serena Deeb. I think she's a great worker. At this point in her career, she should be nowhere near the title picture. And at this point in the career, I don't think we could care whether she's a heel or a babyface here. She's been a heel for so long, and now she's turning babyface again. Very sorry about the real medical history that she had, and I'm happy she fought back to have a career in this industry, and I want to see her succeed, but this is not the spot for me. Big show turn of the week, I did not care. Do we have another gimmick this week? Am I missing any of them? I believe that's all of them. Oh, no. How could I forget? The second new gimmick. The one, I saved this to the end for a reason, because it is super important, folks. Every time you see a match on any card whatsoever, people are clamoring that this is the match of the year, and so we're debuting the match of the year of the week. Bob, what was the match of the year of the week?
Well, this week's match of the year of the week was Ilya Dragunov versus Ricochet on Raw. It could have gone to Sheamus and Gunther, but I just think Dragunov and Ricochet put forth a 10-minute banger of a match. Go back and watch it if you haven't. It just kicked ass. And if you want to see the differences between France and the United States, watch that match. The crowd was dead quiet during Ricochet versus Dragunov. It pissed me off to no end. But they get this week's match of the year, of the week, of the month, of the day, whatever the hell we're calling it. They got it.
Congrats to them. I'm sure they'll wear that trophy with pride. Let's move on to the headlines of the week. This is how we end every show, where we tell you what the world of wrestling will be talking about a week from today. Bob does WWE. I do AEW. Let's start off with Robert Lentini. Let's see if his headline is actually a headline and not the whole article.
Well, we've talked about it. I just said it, basically. WWE should do as many international shows as possible moving forward. That's the headline. That should be the strategy. Hey, wherever these premium live events, so we don't have a venue booked, let's go overseas. Go to look at these crowds, look at the energy. Go everywhere you can, because the people want it. Fans want it around the world. Do it. It works.
Except Saudi Arabia, but no offense. My headline for AEW, and this is not going to be a headline. This is going to be a rant.
No.
On Dynamite, You started off Dynamite. Orange Cassidy beat up Trent. He pinned him after throwing him into a turnbuckle. And then after the match, Trent beat up Orange Cassidy. And it was impactful. Trent was angry. Trent's a bad guy. Suplexes him on the chairs. Next match, we have Mariah May beats Harley Cameron, whatever her name is. And then after the match, Paige comes in, beats up the winner, Mariah May. How dare she? A little less impactful. The next match we see, every single fucking match we saw, the champion who won the match ended up getting beaten up after the bell by either the bad guy or a debuting bad guy and had to come in and get saved all the way to the fucking end when Brody King takes a spear through a table to the outside, gets back in the ring, takes another spear. 1, 2, 3, we pin this dominant giant of a man. And then what happens 2 seconds later? No sell of the spears, no sell of the finish, and we beat up Edge for Kyle O'Reilly to save it. My headline of the week is whoever is booking this fucking bullshit. This is what we used to complain about with WWE. It's okay to have a couple of different finishes on the card. Yeah. When you do the same thing over and over again in a 2-hour span, it becomes less and less impactful every time you do it again. I dare you to go back and look at the match notes of Dynamite and tell me a segment that didn't end with someone getting beaten up from behind after the festivities have ended. It pissed me off to no end. That's my headline, is AEW figure it the fuck out. And that's it for the show. And thank you for watching. But before we leave, Bob, let's check in for this week in Ryback.